Welcome to Beyond the Campus. It's a conversation about all the wonderful things that the faculty and the students at Ferris State University are doing around our university and in the community. Hello, I'm Michelle Johnston. I'm the Dean of the College of Education and Human Services. I'm the host, and I have three fabulous guests today. Dr. Richard Griffin, Dr. Sandy Alspach, and Dr. Wendy Samuels. Welcome.
Thank you.
And the reason I have them is because they're engaged in a very special project, in fact, two special projects, the Political Engagement Project and the Service Learning Project. So could you tell me a little bit about both of those projects? I don't know, Rick, start?
Yeah, sure. I'll be glad to start. Ferris State University is a member of the American Association of State Colleges and Universities. It has between 200 and 300 members nationwide. And an initiative out of that organization was the American Democracy Project a few years ago, and we are a part of that American Democracy Project. In 2006, 8 teaching institutions such as Ferris was one of the 8, were chosen to begin a 3-year initiative called the Political Engagement Project, and we were again very fortunate to be one of the 8 chosen. And it was sponsored by the Carnegie Institute out of Stanford University and the New York Times and American Association of State Colleges and Universities. So this has been an ongoing initiative since fall 2006 here on campus.
Amazing. And it's not just our campus, it's other campuses too?
Exactly. There were 7 other campuses also selected.
So then it got reorganized a little bit, and I guess that's when you came in, Wendy?
Well, actually, I've been involved in the Political Engagement Project since the beginning, and as we've proceeded over this 3-year pilot, there was a group of us that were pushing for re-energizing what had been an academic service initiative here on campus, which the university has now embraced and given resources to. And so starting this fall, as a part of this kind of umbrella, we have 2 initiatives going, an ongoing political engagement project beyond the 3-year pilot that we've had. And then starting this fall, the university has supported a academic service learning project, which really is about taking faculty and students in the academic arena that are involved in course content and bringing them into the community so that they're practicing the skills and knowledge that they're learning in the classroom with real-world customers and in the community. So,
what would be an example of that?
Well, I'll use my own course as an example because I've been doing this about 6 years. I teach, I'm a social work faculty, and I teach an advanced interviewing class, which is a counseling class basically. And the students in my class have partnered with the Big Rapids Public Schools and Metron, depending on the age group they wish to work with, to do one-on-one mentoring. So I have a community partner with a school social worker. We match the students in my class with some very high-need students in the middle school, and the 2 students get together. My students are mentoring the students in the middle school, so they're actually practicing the skills that they're learning in the classroom into the community and benefiting the high-risk students in the community.
Oh, wonderful. It sounds wonderful. Now, Sandy, have you been involved? How does this all work with
Yes, I started with the Political Engagement Project at its inception as well, and was a faculty member who engaged my students in my classes in the different projects that were offered to them, but this year Rick asked me to work with him as co-coordinator. I wanted to highlight one of the PEP activities that we've already done, and it's a kickoff activity at the beginning of the school year because Constitution Day is September 17th, and we celebrated Constitution Week here at Ferris. One of the things that PEP has done since its inception, and this was the first year it really fell in my lap to kind of work with that. I was busy with some other projects.
She did a great job, too.
Okay,
But we sponsored information tables in the IRC connector and in the Rankin Atrium and also over at Flight. And the Flight folks were wonderful. They put together trivia questions on the Constitution. We handed out pocket copies of the Constitution, invited students to answer the questions, and we drew winners from those who had answered the questions correctly each day for 5 days, celebrating the Constitution and our constitutional rights. And this is the way we engage the campus and the students in political activities.
It's wonderful. And they're engaged and they're learning while they're being engaged.
And it's fun.
Well, my producer, when we were planning, said I needed to be a devil's advocate. So why wouldn't they be learn just as much in the classroom and have that opportunity, to continue to achieve in the classroom without walking out of the classroom and doing all these things?
Well, so let me begin the discussion. At least one of the things that we've done, we brought on a lot of speakers, okay, people who are out in the real world doing real things. So one of the early speakers we had was a woman named Diane Wilson, and we'd met her in Baltimore at an American Democracy Project conference, and she was from the Gulf Coast of Texas, where I'm from. So,
Okay,
so we
you get
immediately hit
along.
it off, and well, Diane is a woman who is she's a shrimper. She's a shrimper. She's a mom, has 4 children, and
As a shrimper catching fish?
yes, shrimp.
Yeah, catching fish.
clarification.
She owned a shrimp boat, okay, and she called Port Lavaca Bay, which is near Galveston, her mother. It was because she'd grown up there, and because of the numerous petrochemical plants that are in that area, they were dumping pollutants into the bay. They were killing the porpoise, they're killing the fish. I mean, it was unbelievable. She felt that that she had to do something herself, and because she couldn't depend on the politicians anymore, so she began hunger strike. She did. Ultimately, she sank her own shrimp boat on top of the valve that let all this stuff into the bay.
Oh.
And she came here on campus and did a presentation, and we filled up the auditorium over at the pharmacy building. And she challenged. She looked out into the audience and she challenged. She said, "This is your earth. This is your country. If you don't do it, no one will. You have to have courage, like she did." So I mean, that's something you have to meet someone that's done things like that.
That's powerful, and you never get it from a book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I might, you asked the question, why aren't they just in the classroom?
Yeah.
And I think the best analogy that I have to both academic service learning and political engagement, because those are course-driven too, that is within the courses, is that, you take a biology student who goes to a lecture 3 days a week, and they're watching an overhead or a PowerPoint and looking at the cells or whatever class they're in, but then they have a lab each week that they are actually going into the lab and they're looking through a microscope and they're seeing the different whatever they're studying, okay? The same is true of any student in other disciplines wherein you're learning in the classroom a certain values, skills, and knowledge, and then you're taking those value, skills, and knowledge into the community, and you've got a real live learning lab, whether that be, for example, dental hygiene students going into the public schools and doing dental hygiene, teaching children to brush their teeth and floss their teeth. I mean, that's a real live learning lab. And so that's kind of, they're practicing what they're learning. And so I like to equivocate that as a learning lab, that it's part of the course, and it's the lab part of the course.
And sort of reinforce the skills
Yes.
they get in the class.
And it's not just a class experience or a course experience, it's a lifelong experience.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is get students to understand and embrace the fact they are citizens of a community, whether that's the Big Rapids or the Ferris State community, the state, or the nation. So last year our theme was the political engagement of the presidential election. And when we sponsored our fall public speaking contest, the theme was the political campaign issues. Students chose an issue, wrote a 5 to 8 minute speech, and stood up and presented that position on that political issue. And this was the week before the elections. So we like to think that the 100 people who came to the finals to watch those 3 top speakers actually had a little lesson in what some of the issues were in preparation to exercise their right as a citizen to vote.
So not
Voter
only
registration was a big part of that campaign.
not only
too.
did they learn how to give a speech, but they learned the information to make it a deeper, more meaningful speech.
And when you get a student to stand and speak for what he or she believes in, they have to own it. It's not just giving a speech for class where they demonstrate how to do something. Engaging in a political commitment by standing in front of a group of strangers takes a real courage, and involvement. You can't just blow that off.
Right.
It's real.
And is that what
And that's our little trophy. We offer the contest again every fall. This is to be the 4th year that we've had the contest. There are 3 prizes. The 3 finalists are chosen from all the students who compete on the night before, and then we have a panel of distinguished judges, including Dr. Griffin. Our welding program, and Dave Murray and his welder group have produced the trophies for us. So we have the Ferris Torch trophies, are truly unique Ferris products. The students also earn cash prizes. They're cash prizes for first, second, and third place.
Wow.
And this year the theme is opportunity and social change. That's to tie in with opportunity, which is the theme for Ferris and the 125th celebration.
It truly is. It's the 125th opportunity, 125 opportunity at Ferris State University.
I have to say, having been a judge in the past, I mean, our students do a tremendous job in this contest. They are outstanding, and it's really hard to, but because they all do just a tremendous job.
Isn't
it's
that great?
unbelievable. Yeah.
When you were saying engagement, I thought of something with the teacher education program, which, by the way, was just ranked exemplary by the Michigan Department of Education.
Congratulations.
Well,
Yes.
thanks. But we've had these forums with principals, and this would go exactly along with what you're saying. The principals say to us every year, don't send us someone who hasn't been engaged,
Right.
because you'll send us somebody that will be just stuck doing nothing for 30 years. Whereas if you have someone that's been engaged, they're active, they want to do more things, they want to become involved in the community. Well, with this new organization, have you found improvement? And do you see some improvement that's going on already? I know it's new in the year.
Well, I think there's some historical data with the Political Engagement Project, and we have been 3 years gathering data with the PEP program, and I've got to say I'm very proud of our students and our faculty because, for example, one piece of information, we can't own all of this, but we certainly had an impact. Ferris had of the respondents of a survey, we had an 84% voter turnout in the fall of
fabulous.
2008, as opposed to a 50-some for the same age group nationally, and that's pretty. I mean,
that's huge.
There was the Obama effect, and we can't own all of that, but there were a lot of excitement and engagement in that fall election stuff. It's too early to know if the academic service learning initiative is going to take hold, but we do have a core group of faculty, about 12 who are starting, and that's very exciting. It tends to be the faculty that have already been doing this, but we're hoping to branch out and engage more faculty in that. And both projects are keeping data, so that we can hopefully show that. I mean, I'm very proud of our campus, and I think that we just need to have the numbers to go along with.
And you'll be able to show with the data that you're keeping the value that you've added to the lives of the students, and I would think the impact on the community.
Well, and we've been able to share this nationally and regionally. Rick just got back from a conference where he was sharing our project, and we've got another initiative going in the spring, we hope, in Cincinnati. So it's not just something we're doing for our students here at Ferris, but we're sharing the Ferris experience with other academics and other institutions and hoping this catches on.
It just might.
And I have to say, I've been to a number of conferences doing a presentation on the Political Engagement Project, and overwhelmingly, when I would go, faculty on other campuses are amazed what we're doing. They really are. And one of the questions I ask is, how are we so successful? And to be honest with you, when I tell them we have a very engaged faculty, and we're trying to engage the students, and we have strong administrative support. It comes all the way from the president's office down to the VPAA's office and the
I
deans.
think the president's very supportive of this.
Without a doubt. Oh, yeah.
And I like it. Speaking as a dean, I like it for our students in my college because even the students today are actually learning what they're practicing what they've learned, and they go out into the community.
Well, I have to tell you, I was at a conference in the spring, and a faculty member she was in political science or sociology, one, whatever. She hung around after I did my presentation, we talked, and she looked at me straight in the eye and she said, my university would never support this. I mean, she said, they would say we don't have enough resources, and it was the University of Tennessee.
Much larger
institution than ours, so we're doing some,
And I don't know about resources as much as commitment.
Yeah.
Because it's your time, your commitment.
I think that, in terms of, that's been the support, the administrative support, is that they have given some release time for the faculty that are coordinating these projects, and that's significant. Yes. I don't know you could be successful doing that. I mean, we all do our volunteer and our service, but to have the time and ability to really put some time and energy behind that is really significant.
Yeah, I think that is. And the other thing, You're from social work, you're from social science, you're from communication. It's
Yeah.
across the campus
Absolutely.
in a
Oh, yeah,
collaborative way.
yeah. We've had faculty. We've had during the 3-year period, we've had over 70 faculty involved, and they've been in basically every college, with exception of optometry. But even early on, optometry students were involved.
Yeah, and they're doing things out.
Yeah,
They are
exactly.
doing
So there's faculty in every college who a component of their course has been political engagement.
Isn't that something? What are some examples of some of the projects?
I can give you one that it's one of our favorite ones. One of my colleagues in political science, Christine Bailey, and has done something just unbelievable. With the strong support again of President Eisler and even the board, as you'll see.
Yeah.
But she has our students interview World War II veterans, and she calls it the newest generation meets the greatest generation. And the stories and she's documenting this, and we're putting it in the library because World War II veterans they're getting pretty old. So and it's just some unbelievable stories. She's had such success in doing it that she was contacted by a group of veterans up in the UP. Said, we haven't been interviewed. So through Dr. Eisler's office and the Political Engagement Project resources, we took 2 vans of students up to meet with these veterans in a little town up in the UP. And they had all of their medals, they had all their pictures, and it was great. It was unbelievable. And Dr. Eisler had the board make them honorary Ferris State graduates. And some of these, there was both men and women, and a couple of them had tears in their eyes because they didn't get a chance to go to college.
No, they were over in the Battle of the Bulge.
And
or
one man
something.
held his Ferris diploma, and he said, 3 of my grandchildren graduated from Ferris. I can't wait to go home and tell them that now I'm a Ferris graduate.
Oh, is that wonderful?
Yeah, it was just unbelievable.
This is the first I've heard that story.
Oh,
Is that yeah. What are some other?
Well, I would like to just spin off of what Wendy said for resources, because each of us who has a political engagement course has access to $300 to spend towards bringing a guest into our classes, taking our students to a location for transportation, whatever other kinds of activities that we want to do. And that really provides the instructor incentive to look for creative ways to get the students engaged.
An example of how those resources, those per-class resources, can really have an impact. All 5 of the social work faculty were engaged in the political engagement process or project. And last spring, the National Association of Social Workers has a spring political advocacy day in March. And so all 5 of us combined our resources to take the big bus down to Lansing, and we filled this bus with 50-some students to go to Lansing to hear how a bill was made, tour the Capitol, go to breakout sessions about bills that really had to span interdisciplines, but really had to do with something that interested social workers. So they spent the entire day, probably 3/4 of our students in our program, and to pull up to Lansing in the big bulldog bus, it was really fun. We never would have been able to afford that without pooling those resources that we had per class to do something
and there are
like
really political nuances in Lansing happening on our state level that you never get out of a book. Ever. If I were a faculty member, how would I get involved in it?
Well, at the beginning of each semester, we try to do a little recruitment, and we send out campus-wide notices. But basically, they could get involved by calling me or Sandy or Wendy or Denise Minton also couldn't be here, or they could call Dean Potter's office
and it can be done on a semester-by-semester basis. For example, I have a PEP class this semester with my public speaking class in the public speaking contest. Next semester, I have a service learning class. So I'll be shifting over a little bit more.
Neat.
So by the course curriculum and what fits the curriculum, I can swing now from PEP to ASC.
Wonderful. What are you going to do as part of service learning?
Well, the service learning project is a continuation of what my students have done in the senior seminar. In the senior seminar, the communication majors have to find a client and provide a service for that client. It has to be a real world problem. The client can be on campus or out in the community. And then they work in teams of 2 or 3 to provide information, to gather data, to do what the client needs to have done using their communication training. So it's a perfect application of what they've been studying
studying
for the whole
class.
curriculum, and it gets our students into the workplace by showing them they can do work with a communication degree and provide a real service for the people that they're working with.
Fabulous. Now, if I'm a person or representing an organization in Big Rapids, how do I get involved?
I think the same is either get a hold of myself or Denise Mitten for the academic service learning component, Rick or Sandy for the political engagement project. But you asked, there was a part of the question about the value to the community.
Yeah.
And as I've been out in the community doing some higher learning commission work on the engagement and service of the university, I've got to say that the community is just so excited about our students being out there. For example, I met at the beginning of the year with my community partners at the middle school, the principal, the vice principal, and the school social worker, and they are just like, without you guys, we would just be, all these kids would be falling through the holes. And I hear that, I mean, that's what I've heard from my partners, but I've been hearing that community-wide. I was over in Baldwin last May, and there are a number of faculty that are involved in there. Denise Mitten's class did a whole health initiative with their students over there, and they're just like, oh my gosh, it was an enormous impact. The math people are over there. I mean, you know, so the community is just excited about our students being out there and engaged with, because it really does provide a service to them.
It provides a service, especially now when so many are being cut and we're in such financial straits.
Yeah.
I was going to ask another question, and that is represented by all these newspapers. You also have the Readership Program. How does that work?
Our affiliation with the New York Times gives us an opportunity to get students connected with newspapers. The New York Times provides 100 copies of the newspaper every day, 5 days a week. We make stations around campus where students can pick them up. Faculty members can have them delivered right to their offices. I know a couple of my colleagues take their newspapers to class with them and say, here's what's on the front page. Do you know what's going on? And if you don't, here's the paper. Go read it. One of my colleagues has a friend who is in his late 70s, early 80s. He's no longer able to get the New York Times delivered to his home, so she gets 2 copies and she takes one to him
Isn't it?
every day. And so providing a service, but also explaining to students that being connected with what's going on in your community means a little investment. And here's an opportunity to use the paper to become invested in reading up on and knowing the information that's out there in your community. So the Readership Program, it works very well as a support for the political engagement project. We get the benefit of the newspapers, and then we have those tools to use to connect the students with reading.
Great, great. Do you use it in your classes, or either of you, Wendy?
I use it indirectly in terms of making sure people are, you know, my students are aware of public, you know, what's going on in the press and what's going on in their world, you know.
Yeah, same thing with me. I teach a course, politics and media, and one of the main concerns is that they do begin to find out what's going on in the world.
Yeah, and I would think, because we also have USA Today, the Torch, and I've been to one of the stations, they have the Free Press too, so there would be opportunities to compare.
Yes.
How
Some faculty do that. They compare and contrast the different viewpoints of the papers and their slant and things like that. So
that I think would open someone's eyes and bring up some critical thinking.
No, sure.
Well, and we had a New York Times writer last spring who's a blogger, and he came to different classes and explained how the press process is now gone electronic online. So it's not just the printed newspaper, but that students can engage in discussion of key issues by listening to what bloggers are writing, and of course the students are much more into
They're
reading
more into
online
the technology
Right, exactly.
than they are
Yeah.
into newspapers.
Yeah.
right.
Well, this also, I was going to say something about communication. When my youngest son was in college, I visited, they had a day where you could visit, the parents could visit all their classes, and I went to a communication class. And the professor said that she used to stand in the front of the class and lecture about communication every day. She said she got really good at it, but she found out the kids didn't. The students didn't pick it up. And it wasn't until she released herself from being in the front of the room, got them involved, that things started to improve and they started to learn. So I'm seeing that. What is some of the future? What does the future hold for political engagement?
Well,
and
it's
service learning?
political engagement. This semester we have, I think, it's 27 faculty again across campus involved and all sort of, continuing exciting projects. In fact, we're having a gala tonight
I
to
know, I was going to
recognize,
ask about that,
yeah,
too.
to recognize people who've contributed to political engagement. So, it's an ongoing project. The 3-year initiative is over, but the university has decided to continue, and that's I think it's very important. And I think so. This is something that we're trying to institutionalize along with academic service learning.
Good. In the future of service learning?
Academic service learning, our big future is developing our community partnerships. So we're really interested in finding out what the needs are in the community and then developing faculty and coursework that will meet those community needs.
We've already got plans for Constitution Week next
Oh,
week.
good.
We found out Constitution Day is on a Friday,
Oh,
which
fun.
makes
great.
for a natural week, so we'll be able to celebrate the Constitution for 5 days,
Monday through Friday.
working with our flight associates, and we're already looking at doing some more exciting things like online quizzes that the students can get more participation in than just the paper that we've been shuttling around at different tables on campus.
I think that'll be wonderful. And I think we learn every year, so every year it gets richer and stronger,
yeah.
and so it'll keep on going because so
Absolutely.
many people are committed to that. Now, I was going to make a little plug for what's going on with some students. There's a student group having a luncheon and a leadership conference on Saturday the 17th. It's going to start at 9:30, and one of their sponsors is you.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And why would that be an important thing to support student leadership?
Well, that's where our future leaders come
yeah.
from. Yeah, I mean, give them the skills. A university, a true university, is about learning, and what better place to give them, put them in the situation where they have to experience what it's all about. So, so when they go out in the community, they've already had these experiences, and that's where you learn, from the experiences. You make your mistakes, but at the same time, you learn from your mistakes. So.
And that Saturday specifically is the title of it is Growing Our Own, and it's the senior leadership at Ferris, current senior leadership at Ferris, attempting to mentor and develop the leadership from the freshman and sophomore classes, and beginning that initiative. So it's all about engagement.
It is about engagement. I'm thinking that's a very important opportunity for our students. Sandy, do you have something?
Well, one of the things I discovered when I visited the student government meeting and tried to encourage them to get engaged, we have several committees that are sponsored by the Faculty Senate, and those committees invite students to become members. So I went to the student government and said, we need student input on these committees. We need you to participate in the process. And you are not just the widgets. You are part of making this institution better. We were thrilled that the student governments filled all of those positions in the first week that we asked. And they're very much interested in replacing themselves on student government by grooming younger folk who see this as something they'd like to invest their time
See,
in.
that was my understanding too,
Yes.
because as they graduate, there leaves a void,
Right.
and they have to nurture and grow. And I'll tell you, since being at Ferris, I've been so impressed about the leadership of the students. They're absolutely fabulous here. Well, our time is not quite up, but I have one last little request, and that is I'm kind of looking this as a prequel.
Yes.
It's in the lingo of television. Could we have a sequel?
Sure.
In spring semester, could we have some of your students come?
We'd
Absolutely.
love to.
Without a doubt.
Sure.
What would be some of the things we could expect in the spring? That
I think talking about their experience,
Experience.
and how great it is to be involved,
Yeah.
engaged, because it's a pump,
Right.
So-
Well, we could have one of the winners of our speech
Speech
contest
contest.
Right.
share that experience and what
Sure.
it's like to stand in front of 150 people.
that would be
I
great.
think another one
political
would be
statement.
someone who's interviewed one of the World War II vets.
Oh, I think that would be fabulous, and then maybe they could bring videos
Right,
or
yes,
tape or something
whatever,
like that.
yeah.
Well, guess what? Our 30 minutes is up.
Can't believe it.
I can't either, because it went so fast. I didn't go over all my questions. In fact, I didn't go over very many. But I want to thank you, and I also want to thank the people of Big Rapids and the students of Ferris State University who participate in this program too. They watch it and they comment on it, so it was wonderful that you were part of this.
Thank
our
you.
first
Thank you for
program.
having us.
Thank you.